Cowboys Nation, listen up because what I'm about to break down is going to send shockwaves through every corner of the football world. And even though this is a hypothetical, fan-driven scenario, we're going to explore it like it's unfolding right this second, live in real time, the kind of blockbuster move that would melt the internet, explode every group chat, and have every analyst scrambling to rewrite their rankings, predictions, and expectations for the entire NFL season. Because the idea of the Dallas Cowboys swinging a massive franchise-altering trade for Maxx Crosby, yes, that Maxx Crosby, the relentless pass-rushing monster, the high-motor, snap-to-snap maniac, the leader, the tone setter, the guy who plays like his hair is on fire every single play. That idea alone has Cowboys fans buzzing, Raiders fans panicking, and NFL fans everywhere asking the question, what would this league look like if the Dallas Cowboys paired Micah Parsons and Maxx Crosby on the same defense? And I'm telling you right now, even in a hypothetical scenario, even in a creative what-if breakdown like this one, the ripple effect is insane because you're talking about combining two of the most explosive, violent, relentless edge defenders of the modern era. And whenever you put that kind of energy together on the same roster, you get chaos. Not the bad kind, but the kind that offensive coordinators wake up in cold sweats thinking about. So imagine this. The Cowboys, tired of playoff disappointment, tired of falling short, tired of the pundits saying they're soft, that they can't get over the hump, that they lack killer instinct, decide to finally do what fans have been begging for years. They go all in, not halfway in, not making low-risk moves, not banking on potential, but truly all in. And they do it by making the biggest splash possible, adding Maxx Crosby. And let me make this clear. Crosby isn't just another star. He's not a guy who puts up stats quietly, not someone who disappears in the fourth quarter, and he's definitely not someone who brings effort only when it's convenient. No, Crosby is one of those rare guys who changes the culture of a locker room the second he walks in, who forces teammates to match his intensity, who makes coaches rethink their entire defensive philosophy, who instantly commands respect. And pairing him with Micah Parsons, who is already one of the most gifted athletes we've ever seen on a defensive field, is the kind of move that could tilt the balance of power in the NFC instantly. Picture this. Offenses lining up on first down, and on one side of the line is Crosby, lined up in that wide 9 stance he loves, rocking back and forth like a predator waiting for the snap. And on the other side is Parsons, moving around pre-snap, disguising his intentions, playing that hybrid edge linebacker role that makes him impossible to game plan for. And right there in that moment, defensive coordinators across the league would call their offensive coordinators and say, good luck, we'll pray for you. And we're not even talking about the pressure numbers, the sacks, the quarterback hits, the forced fumbles. Those would come naturally. We're talking about the psychological impact. Quarterbacks start rushing their reads, timing routes get disrupted, offensive lines start over-communicating and still making mistakes, running backs get blown up in pass protection. Everything becomes panic-driven. And even though this is hypothetical, imagine what that kind of defensive duo does for the Cowboys secondary. Diggs gets more chances to jump routes, Bland gets more opportunities for pick sixes, safeties get cleaner angles, linebackers get fewer blockers climbing to the second level. Everything gets easier when your pass rush becomes a living nightmare. And now let's dive into the idea of what this trade would even cost, because Cowboys fans love the dream, but the price tag would be massive. Multiple first-round picks, young defensive pieces, maybe even starters, and still, even with that price, a lot of fans would say, do it. Do it right now. Do it yesterday. Because when you're talking about a player like Crosby, you're not just trading for a defender. You're trading for an identity. you're trading for the kind of fire that pushes an entire roster to another level. And the crazy part, in a hypothetical universe, Jerry Jones absolutely would consider doing something wild like this because Jerry loves stars more than anyone alive. Meanwhile, Stephen Jones would be in the background clutching the salary cap calculator like it's a life raft, double checking every column, trying to figure out how to make it all work. And speaking of the cap, yes, this would require maneuvering, restructuring, extending Dak Prescott, pushing money into future years, maybe saying goodbye to veterans eventually. But when you're in a win now window, when you have players like Parsons and Lamb entering their primes, when your window is open but closing fast because contracts are coming due, sometimes you just have to make a move that tells the league, we're not settling for mediocrity. We're not settling for making the playoffs. We're here to win it all. And that's why, even as a hypothetical, this scenario is fascinating. Cowboys fans have been dying for a true all-in moment, something that matches the urgency they feel year after year. And Crosby is exactly the kind of player who embodies what this team has been missing: edge, nastiness, hunger, that blue-collar grind that elevates everyone else around him. And think about the locker room dynamic for a moment and picture Micah Parsons and Maxx Crosby in the same defensive meeting room, competing every day, pushing each other, setting the tone in practice, refusing to be outworked. That kind of energy is contagious. Rookies would be watching them like they're superheroes. Veterans would feel reinvigorated. Coaches would be designing parts of the defense they never even considered before. And let's not forget the fan reaction. Cowboys Nation would lose its mind in the best possible way. Social media would break. Twitter, Instagram, Discord, YouTube comments. Everything would be flooded with reactions. Raiders fans would be furious. Cowboys fans ecstatic. And neutral fans fascinated. Even the national media, which loves to dunk on Dallas at every opportunity, would have no choice but to admit this changes everything. Because it does. Even as a hypothetical, the thought of Crosby in a Cowboys uniform shifts expectations instantly. No more excuses, no more maybe next year, no more moral victories. Oh, with a duo like this, the Cowboys wouldn't just be trying to make the playoffs. They'd be expected to make the NFC Championship, expected to contend for the Super Bowl, expected to dominate defensively in a way they haven't since the days of DeMarcus Ware and beyond. And you know what the funniest part is? Even though this is all hypothetical, even though this is a creative scenario for entertainment, Cowboys fans hear the idea and say, well, Jerry has done crazier things. And that's true. We've seen him pull off surprises before. And the very thought of this happening gets people excited because it represents more than just adding talent. It represents an organization acting with urgency. And urgency, my friends, is something Cowboys fans have been craving for years. So when we imagine a world where Maxx Crosby becomes a Dallas Cowboy, even in a fictional breakdown like this, the fun doesn't come from the transaction. It comes from imagining what this team could become when two of the most dangerous pass rushers alive share the same field, the same vision, and the same mission, destroying offenses and bringing a Super Bowl back to Dallas. So, Cowboys Nation, as we wrap this long, wild, hypothetical breakdown, ask yourself this. If you were the one pulling the trigger, if you were sitting in Jerry's chair, would you do it? Would you push your chips to the middle of the table and go all in? Would you sacrifice picks and players for a once-in-a-generation defensive identity? Would you take the risk, knowing the reward could be the Lombardi Trophy? Because that's the heart of this entire thought experiment. It makes you confront what you value more: long-term draft capital or immediate championship potential. And for a team as starved for postseason success as the Cowboys, the answer might be a lot more complicated than people think. But one thing is certain: Imagining Maxx Crosby in Dallas is one of the most electrifying what ifs in football, because even the idea of Crosby and Parsons standing side by side sends chills down the spine of every offensive coordinator in America. And that, my friends, is why this scenario is so much fun. Cowboys Nation, drop a comment and tell me, would you make the deal? Smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dive Cowboys content, and buckle up, because when we talk football on this channel, we go all the way in. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep the energy high. And as always, go Cowboys.